Hey, welcome to Seduction Tech. I am here once again. I'm very lucky because I get to speak to very special people, and I got someone very, very special. And if you follow him anywhere he's at and you read the things that he writes, you see what I'm talking about. And I'm here with none other than Mav Hamilton. How are you, Mav? What's going on? What's good?
Great. Absolute pleasure to be here. And I want to make sure I pronounce your name right. Is it Q or K?
Q, like the letter Q, Keu.
Oh, nice. Shout out to your parents. Smashing. I love the way.
My son's name is the same name. And but tell us a little bit, I told you I didn't want to get your extensive biography wrong, right?
Mm.
So define yourself for us. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, I would say I'm Maverick Hamilton. I'm the founder of Mavericks Manor. I've been writing books since 2018. My primary goal is to help men really get to where they want to be, help men essentially get the love of their life, or help men date as many women as they want to, so long as it's, nice and they're not being assholes about it. Speak about social commentary that's going in the world, specifically with men's issues, because we do have them. And more importantly, making sure that whenever I write, whoever I connect with, we're all on the same team, where as men, we're trying to do our mandate that we've been given since birth, since Adam, to make the world a better place. It sounds corny, but I very much believe in every single sentence that I write the same way I believe in every single sentence I say.
Dope. Now, I got to touch on the accent because no one's going to stop listening. People are not going to concentrate until we know where's that from.
So, born and raised in London, I moved to America in the summer of 2012, straight after my MBA, and I've been here ever since. So, oh God, 13 years now, which is fucking insane when you think about it. But yeah, I definitely went through a phase of being the British guy coming into America, and that was half of my problems when it came to dating.
But you think so? I was going to say it's a cheat code, because you start
That
talking
was
to
the
a lady
problem.
like,
That was the problem, because it was a cheat code.
yeah, because you start whispering those London words in her ear. That was a bad London accent, but
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
let me ask you this: where are you from originally? Like, what's your
I'm
ethnicity? What's your background?
I'm Puerto Rican. So I'm originally from Puerto Rico. My first language is
Yeah.
Spanish, so I have
Okay.
an accent, but it's been so many years that it's not that thicker kind of Puerto Rican accent that we
Mm-hmm.
hear from the East Coast. Um, I've been
Cool.
around Mexicans and South Americans, so I've been all over the place. So it's kind of like I'm sure in London there's different kinds of
Oh yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah, I noticed you had a bit of an accent, but it's kind of like spliced with an American accent. It's a lot of swagger in it. So I was like, all right, what part of America has he really spent most of his time in? Very cool.
Yeah, well, when I say Puerto Rican, then people automatically assume, well, what part of New York? It's like, well, there's Puerto Rico, and then there's New York because there's so many Puerto Ricans in New York, and it's two different cultures. I'm an islander, right? So I'm from a humble island. We're very humble people and so on. And I think the Puerto Ricans in New York are more Americanized, right? So they
Yeah. Well,
they have a little
100.
bit more pride,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Way more than Puerto Rico. But they'll rep them flags though. They will rep those flags.
Oh yeah, you have to. That's like a law. That's the law. People,
100%.
yeah, you're not allowed to do anything without it. What's crazy that my kids are half Mexican, half Puerto Rican, so they're still little. But when those boxing matches between Mexicans and Puerto Ricans come,
Oh
they're
yeah.
gonna have a hard time.
Mm.
But they're gonna have to choose a side. I don't know.
Love
So,
that.
but man, the reason that I'm such a fan of your work is because every time I'm scrolling through Substack, which you're very popular there, I'm always entertained or shocked or makes me think whatever you're saying, it pops up and I'm like, this is true. I'm like, oh wow, I never saw it this way. Or like, ooh, he said that. Not that I don't agree, but I'm like, you say it like it is. and you don't care if people really like it or not, but people do like it. So
Nope.
how did this come about? Were you always this kind of writer? Were you just so free to just
Yeah,
express yourself?
that's a really good question. And I want to say this. When I first started writing, it was very pacified. It was just very, because I used to write for men and women, right? And the things that I wrote, I believed in, but I always policed what I said because it was like, I don't want to scare people. Like, I don't want to scare them away. And one day I realized, like, when I give women this advice, especially female friends I have that close to me, they don't listen anyway because they just do what they want. And for women, the way they date is very passive. They don't really need advice. If you've got big boobs and a fat ass, like, it doesn't matter what your face looks like. You can just walk down the street and some idiot's going to be like, oh, can I get your number? So for them, their dating is always going to be passive. They don't need me, right? Whereas men, they do need me, especially because even when I was 12 years old, I realized how much different our dating would be versus a girl versus a boy. So one day I wrote an article just being like, yo, if you're a man, dating's kind of shit at the moment. It blew up. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to write just atomized negative views of what dating's like for a man, but I want to be honest. I want to be honest with the experience. I want to be honest with the double standard. And I want to help men get out of their way, because if you're not careful, you're going to go down a very slow route of genuinely hating women when there isn't a way you can get anything that you want.
Wow, that's very deep. Get out of your own way. That's that's the quote, because yeah, we do it, all of us. I mean, I think at some point or another, we are our obstacle. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a great way to look at it. And when you say that, get out of your own way, do you mean the destructive patterns, or the socialized? We men, and it's an opinion. I think we've been castrated a little bit. Like, we've been,
Yes.
like, they don't want us to be that man. They're like, oh no, come down. And I believe that our nature is to be the men that we want to be. So do you mean stop that destructive or that limiting behavior? Or do you mean, or what do you mean by that? What do you mean by, get out of
Yeah.
your own way?
I kind of mean just stop sucking your own dick, like you're not all that. Like you could be a millionaire, you could have abs as far as the eye can see, you could be super muscular and super charismatic, but you're still a man. You're still a human being, you're still fallible. And when you are successful, when you really buy into yourself too much, women can smell it like sharks smell blood and water, right? So you have to have this perfect balance of being very cocksure, cocky, confident, being very humble, and somewhere in between. That's the kind of way you want to behave with people. And I think sometimes, particularly, and they had a study on this, and I wish I had written an article about it, but they said that intelligent men find it harder to date because they're overthinking things, and you can't help but do that the more wisdom you get as you acquire age. So I think a lot of the time, men shoot themselves in the foot because they know what's going down, but they don't play the game. And sometimes as a man, you have to play the game just a little bit. It's like when a woman says, I've never done this before. You're like, oh yeah, of course you haven't, right? You just kind of play along. Whereas sometimes men are like, oh, I know you've done it before, you little slut. And that's like, that scares women away. So you really have to take yourself out of the equation and realize that you are going to get fucked around. Your heart is going to get stumped on. People are going to ghost you. People are going to block you. But if you take all of those things personally, you're going to project that hate. You're going to project that anger. And even if you don't say a thing, take away women. Humans in general can always smell an aura, a vibe, a kind of way that you project yourself to other people. And when men look in themselves and be like, shit, the only thing I know is nothing, right? I'm just trying to do my best. Everything changes. Everything.
Wow. Man, you're giving a lot of hard-hitting things to think about here, and it shows that you have really studied this. I mean, I was reading that it took you 4 years of studying seduction before you wrote your first book. I think is The First Date Fix.
Yes, that's
Right.
correct.
So what is that book about, and why, or how, or what did you study to prepare for that?
Yeah, yeah, and look, just being frank, and for anyone that watches, is the First Date Fix is an okay book. It's not bad, it's not good. Just being honest. That's why I don't promote that shit, because it was my first book, and my writing has significantly improved. But essentially, the First Date Fix, when I wrote that, it was because I had been on so many fucking first dates, and I consumed so much things. I consumed everything from PUA, from red pill, from black pill, from purple pill. Any YouTuber you mentioned, I've probably watched it. I even followed some female dating coaches on TikTok. I read a bunch of communication books. I read sales books. I literally have some sales books behind me right now that I read in order to get better at, meeting people, communication, all that stuff. So I consume that because I knew that for me personally, my personality is pretty decent. I can, get along with just about anyone. But I knew there was a sense of mastery, and I knew there was a sense of seduction that I was lacking. And I knew that it was something that I could do if I just studied it. And I say to everyone, today we live in a world where everyone's like, oh, it should be natural. Everything's AI. Oh, dating apps. Why can't things be natural? And I'm like, there was never a moment in time where there was anything natural about dating. Ever. Everything is contingent on conditions. And most of the time, men don't know the conditions, because when you grow up, what do your parents tell you? That's a question to you. What do your parents say?
The question. I thought it was. Well, no, I think you have to follow, kind of like the road of, you meet a girlfriend, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and you get a house. You work for 60 years, and you die. Right?
Exactly. You
and you
wow,
deviate from that. You're the black sheep.
100%. You literally just nailed it. And that everything you said is bullshit. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen. And when you grow up, you kind of like, oh shit, man. Like, especially now for us, I'm going to assume you're what? You're 35, 33.
A little higher.
Oh no, good for you, man. The Puerto Ricans, god damn.
Yeah, that water all around the island.
Cool,
sure.
blimey. I'm trying to look like you one day. But you kind of learn that stuff, and you realize that the world, especially for men, has changed so dramatically.
And I also saw that before the book. And the reason I'm talking so much about your preparation, because I think
No, please.
it's important for people to understand there's so many gurus out there. We can talk about that later too. I'm tired of it. I'm exhausted. It's like gurus. They're like, they call themselves gurus, and they're say no contact or send their. It's like they have no experience, been in 3 dates.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that later, because that's a whole episode on gurus. We can even just play them here. Yeah. But you're actually someone that talks the talk and walks the walk. And then you became a certified relationship coaching specialist, right? So what does that entail? And what was the process to become that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's actually really simple. So relationship coaching specialists, they have credentials that's typically earned through professional training and a certification program. And I'm trying to remember the provider that I went with, the Relationship Coaching Institute of America. And you have to be very, very careful when you sign up for that, because some of them are scammers, and you have to make sure that it's actually certified and accredited by the Better Business Bureau. So I spent I want to say a month and a half researching that to make sure that I was actually doing the right course. The thing that was interesting about going through that course was everything I thought I knew about dating was kind of true, but it taught me all the boring things about dating that really helped me, find my spouse. So they spoke about how important financial upbringing is together. And I was with someone, for about 3 years where their parents were millionaires. And I didn't realize how far apart that ruined what we had. They speak about how not just communication, but chemistry is basically bullshit, which it is. Your soulmates are essentially created by grace of how you two treat each other. They speak about the obligatory armchair therapist thing, trauma dumping and all that stuff, and how one experience when you're a child could affect your whole relationship life. And when you coach people, you have to go back to what they went through as a child to try and figure out the issue that they have. And then you have to walk them through processes of how to move past that. So I think what's very interesting about the course that you take is if you talk to any psychologist, there are a lot of cross-functional overlapping, but it's not seen in the same light. They almost see me as, oh, you're not a psychologist, you're a fraud. And it's just like, look, no offense, psychologists charge you about, $1,600 an hour for a person who's rich, who lives on the Upper East Side of New York and could care whether you live or die. So, whereas me, I actually, out of my own volition, paid money to do this because I realized that, going on however many 100 dates I've been on wasn't enough. I needed to understand the psychological repercussions and devastating effects that happen when people have bad relationship experiences.
Okay, so would you say in your experience that bad dates or bad connections are almost like self-destructive behavior? For example, you're not complete, so you're not going to click with as many people because you have so many things missing, or do you believe that does luck I mean, can somebody have bad luck and just get a whole bunch of bad people in their lives, or is it like a self-constructive, like self-sabotage issue?
I think there are some aspects where it's self-sabotage. To be frank, if you're a bit of an idiot, if you don't have any self-reflection, you're fucked because you're always going to turn around and be like, oh, she's a bitch. Like, she missed out. Did she really? Or maybe you're just a dickhead and no one's told you that, right? But then there's also the other aspect of, to be blunt, as a man, you want bad relationships. You want some woman to tell you to get the fuck out of her house because you're a piece of shit. You need that stuff. You need to be rejected. You need to go to a club. You need to speak to a girl and her tell you, piss off, I'm not interested. You need those slaps in your face that will just wake you up to those things that could happen to you. You need that to callous your mind to understand that most of the time, not everything is going to go your way. And you need to learn from every single one of those experiences. And sometimes you need to make those decisions incorrectly twice, sometimes 3 times, sometimes 5 times before you realize how you can do things better. So I think for men, particularly, we're supposed to go through those hardships. And I'm not saying willingly walk into a relationship with an idiot who's going to fuck up your life, but I am saying that you just have to have those experiences. You have to lean in to being hurt. Not on purpose, but once you are hurt, don't turn around and say, oh, I have such bad luck. Why does this happen to me? But just kind of laugh and be like, charge it to the game, baby. Like, it is what it is. I should have known. She played me. But you know what? We had a great time,
Absolutely, I get it. It's like the gym or something like that. You go and work on your legs and you can't walk because they hurt, but that's part of
Right.
the growing process. That heartbreak. I believe this. I believe that you don't get heartbroken the same twice. I think each heartbreak is so unique.
Yes.
Some are harsher than
Yes.
others, but I think that that's a great thing because each one, it's kind of like the flu. When you get sick, you can't get the same strain. It'll be next year the new strain of flu, but that's the one you got. You already learned how to fight that, so your body has the antibodies. So the same thing with the heartbreak is once you get your heart broken a certain way, it just won't happen again that way. You're gonna get, it's gonna be over here where you don't expect. That's why it's a heartbreak because you don't. Oh man, I was protecting here, I got hit over here. So in all of that and putting that into a context, how to divide it, how important is biology, meaning our primal sense of being men and women and being attracted because we just are mates, to our behavior being the attractor? Like what do you think is more influential in connection, biology or behavior?
You asked about 3 questions, so I'm going to try and hit that as well as I can. But before I even do, I love your analogy with, a strain of the flu is different. I feel like heartbreak is different, even if it is similar to the last situation. So I just love the way you articulated that. For me, I think dating and mastery of dating is a bit of both. It's always going to be a bit of both, because if you tie down everyone's major decision-making process, it all comes down to three things. One, they want to fuck, like 9 times out of 10. Two, they want to eat. And three, they want some sort of money. The root cause of any problem are those three things, right? And whenever I watch a reality show or a dating show or anything to do with interpersonal relationships with men and women, it always goes down to the root, well, she doesn't want to fuck him. That's why she doesn't like him. And they can talk around in circles, but ultimately that's a lot of what it goes down to. If you get to the most base level thinking, that's one of the things they don't want to fuck him. And that comes down to biology, right? No matter what you do, you can't force attraction. You can't, because women and men, you can't help who you are biologically attracted to, even if you wanted to, right? And, you know, when I was out in these streets, when I was going to bars, clubs, events, all those places to meet women, I could be flowing. I'm talking about the lines were coming off. I was bantering. I'd be saying things and I'm like, holy shit, like I'm good. You know what I mean? Where did I even get that from, right? I still could not get that girl's number. I still could not take her out. I still could not get her to be attracted to me, because there's always going to be that facet of biology that you can't beat. But the difference between biology and actually building attraction is something that can happen over time if you're given the time to do so. But most people don't give people the time to do so, especially now. The same way they swipe on TikTok is the same way they dismiss you when they see you in real life. And the men who, I don't want to say get the most women, but the men who have the most success with women are the people who understand biological instincts, understand charisma, and understand how to connect with people. If you can connect with people and learn to connect with people, it affects every aspect of your life, especially women, because you're a straight man who is seeking women. But once you're able to do that, there are some moments where you can't necessarily force attraction, but you'll know, and you'll know as a man, there'll be a light that just clicks where you immediately know you have her. Where you immediately know, holy shit, I just flipped the script. It doesn't happen every now and then, but if you're that good, it means that if I just throw out an arbitrary number if you have 10 women, to the 60% of women that would have said no because of biology, you know, because of your height, you know, whatever, there'll be those 4 women, 2 of which they have a natural proclivity to being attracted to you. And the other 2, you were so good at what you did, you were able to build that attraction from scratch. That was a lot.
Yeah, no, but a lot, but it makes absolute sense where, yeah, you got to write off the things that are, if she's not attracted to she's just not, meaning physically. Now, it's happened where I've seen it where maybe she might not be attracted to me at a point, and time goes on, and you got kind of get to know each other, right? And then women they're not like us. Like we either you're fine or you're not, and we just black and white. And I think they see they see like a gray area within us. I mean, that doesn't mean that if we don't like you, we will smash, because I think we still
It's
smash.
true. It's true.
We have no standards, but also we're very black and white. But it doesn't matter. They all can
Yeah.
Where women, there's so many points. Like they have a point system.
Yes.
You got to fall within the passing grade. But yeah, if you're in that failed, edge, sometimes with time and other qualities, they might add points to where like, okay, the attraction starts coming in kind of different than us. Like if we don't like it, we're probably not going to ever be attracted. But with them, that attraction shifts in their mind based on even what you could provide. Like if you could probably be poor and not attractive, and then she don't like you, but then you're rich, and then she'd be like, you know what, he started to look kind of cute now. Like there's a certain points that go into all of us, like what we provide, where we don't have that point system. We don't go, she's cute, but she don't have a good job. Like we don't care about the job. We don't care about anything. We don't care what she has. Yeah. She's in debt. We don't care. She's fine or not. With them, they look at everything. Your credit score, your. So how do we beat that point system or not even beat it, but how do we stay in the high percentage? How do we get like a good credit women's seduction attraction credit score?
Yeah, that's a good question. So going back to what you said, and I'm going to answer that second question. I can't, is in one of my articles. I wrote so many, but there was basically a study where they found out that men and women of equal attractiveness typically go together. That's why for decades we've said, they're punching above their weight, because we're like, what the fuck? How do you get that? But here's what was interesting about that study. They found that typically unattractive men who essentially were bagging tens knew them from high school or college or for a long time. So what that means is that if you see someone now who's in his 30s or late 20s and his girlfriend's a bombshell, you can pretty much guarantee he either started dating her in college or in high school, and all she's known is him. So at that point, she's not really going to go back from that because she knows that he's a great guy. Going back to what you were saying, with that personality, with that credit, she's seen his good credit, right? And then on the onset of that, I went to a wedding in 2019 where this lady had known this dude for about 9 years. And, I dated this lady. We hung out a couple of times, and then he married her. So I was like, all right, man, like, fuck it. Like, I'm not going to say anything. Like, he doesn't even know because why would I tell him that? Right. But it was like, she dated me. She dated like 2 of my boys. And like, after that, she dated this guy she's known, for 9 years. And that's kind of what happens sometimes. And I think going back to how you can, I'll ask that last question again, because it was really good. I want to make sure I answer that properly.
Well, meaning, how do we, stay, like, if women have a legend that they have a rating system from 1 to 100, and for you to be able to be attracted to her, you got to be above, let's say, 60%. How do we make sure that we have points everywhere we go, that no matter what women you approach, that we're at least good enough as a passing grade? Like, we're that kind of man that maybe not the most attractive, not the tallest, not the most money, but we got enough points in other areas that at least gets us through the door. You know what I mean? Like, for us to be...
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I don't know any man that can do that. I think the only men that do that are, to be blunt, there's a specific caliber, and even them, those men are rare. What I always say to men is, you want to be the best within yourself, but not just that. You want to accentuate what people like about you in general. And let me break that down a bit more. So, for example, if you're known as the funny, ugly friend, be funnier, right? And then build on that. If you're known as the athletic friend, work on your athleticism and allow that to be a bit of your brand. If you're known as the intelligent friend, and learn how your intelligence can be found to be attractive. I think too many men try to be everything for every woman, and you can't do that because not every woman is going to like you. And what I encourage men to do is, you don't want to have the mentality of being, I want to get every woman, but you want to have the mentality of being able to talk to any woman, being able to charm any woman. Because if you can do that, eventually what's going to happen is they're going to gravitate towards you because they can see that. So for me personally, to be blunt, I am a black, bald-headed man, didn't come from a lot of money. Both of my parents are working class. If you actually look, they did a study with Hinge and OkCupid. The black men are the second lowest to be swiped right on after the Indian dudes. Sorry, Indian guys. But like, that's literally what it is. Technically, I have all of these things going against me, right? But the way I've been successful in dating is, 1, I've never given a fuck. 2, I have conviction. I know exactly who I am. I know exactly what I represent. I don't give a fuck about what anyone says or thinks about me. And I do what I want to do. And I'm just all about having fun, making positive connections, and trying to make everyone else's experience great. And I give an example of how I was able to finesse what you were talking about. I knew every night I went out with my friends, I wasn't going to get every single girl. I didn't want every girl, but I wanted to see one. And what I would always do is I would hang out with men and women and we would just have fun. And every now and then I would look around the bars, I'm drinking my drink or looking at my phone, looking at side eye, and I would always see one or two women looking. They were looking dead at me. And what I would usually do is I would get my glass and I would do this. I'd raise it to him. And if they raised it back, it was over, right? Or I would do something stupid. Like I'd just be like, I'd do a dumb dance. And then if I saw a smile, if I saw a glimmer, I would go over there and I would talk to her. And 8 times out of 10, I'd get her number and we'd be hanging out the next week. So my point is, it was very verbose. You can't get every girl, but the most important thing for any man is to get the ones that you want and to get the ones that you noticing you back.
Got it. So basically you're saying play on your strengths. You know, if
Should
you're
have said that.
funny, be funny. Don't worry about
Mhm.
being an athlete if you're
Mhm.
funny in the sense with an athlete. So that's great advice. I think, I mean, I'm listening to this and I think you're saying is like, have a niche, have a brand, right? And say, who am I? And if I'm this guy, let me be the best version of that guy and let go of the other one.
Exactly.
That's dope.
Because there's women that will always be like, women, right? They're like, I love funny guys. I love artists. I love athletes. I love bald-headed black men, right? Like there's literally a niche for every single woman. And when you get really smart at dating, I don't know how it happens, but you know who likes you just by what she wears, by how she speaks, by her background. You can look in any social setting and be like, I know that girl's going to like me. And you go over there and she does because you have that much experience knowing, okay, typically you could say, what's attracted to Keu? Like what kind of women in the past have liked me? And if you can do that pattern recognition, it means you can go in a place and immediately surmise who's going to be interested and who's not.
Wow. You know, that I call that seduction sniping, right? Where you, you know, you become a sniper, but a sniper just doesn't go out and start sniping, right? Like if you're at war, you have a target and you might have to sit there 2 days, but you need to know what that target is. You can't just shoot random people, right? So you know the women. I like women with black hair and blah 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 blah. So once you have that in your mind, all the other colors fade, right? Once you have that color, you said my color is red. All you can see is red. So it helps you really hone in. And you said something interesting about that was a great technique that you use about looking around and whoever's looking at you, you already narrowed it down to the ones that you're gonna have a higher probability. I have a similar thing where you know, you basically try. Well, it's not that similar, but I will speak to a lot of the girls that were the least attractive at the place, right? If we're at a party or somewhere else, because especially in a group setting, when you give attention to the one that gets the least attention, the ones that get the most attention you can tell they get desperately jealous.
Upset. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why is she's the fat one? Like, I'm the cute one, everybody. And then you ignore her. You know, you ignore her.
Yeah.
And now they're chasing you, right? Like this, because their ego is bigger than the reality. But this person, you know, the least attractive one is going to give you play because she's happy that she's getting some attention. It works in a lot of different things. And sometimes you get to know, which I have another thing about lowering your standards. Sometimes you get to know a lot of the women that you think, nah, that's not my type. Sometimes you get to know them and they're the most fun. They're the ones that you can,
100%.
yeah. So how do you feel about that? Because I think some people have kind of criticized me like, well, how are you going to lower your standards? It's like, I'm not saying lower your standards. I'm saying be realistic that not all the girls are going to look like Instagram 10s, right? It's like lower that crazy thought that they all got to look like this perfect. Like, nah, like 95 or more percent, 99% of women are going to they're going to have flaws. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. So, you know, I think when I used to go out, you know, whether it was a work mix or a club or a party, a wedding or whatever, I always looked at approaching women like working out. When you work out, you walk on the treadmill, you warm yourself up, and then you do a couple of weight training, and then you really start increasing the weight and you start increasing the sets, right? So you're in the middle of your workout, you're ending strong. And going back to what you were saying about, unattractive women, it wasn't so much about unattractive women, but I would literally talk to any woman in the bar, like just to warm myself up, to get used to that, intersexual dynamic. You just be like, hey, how are you? What's going on? I love your dress. Your dress is incredible. Wow, where'd you get it from? With no intention of getting her number, with no intention of pursuing that. So typically the first half an hour, that's what I would do. I just talked around. Yeah, I'll be walking to the restroom. Hey, what's going on? You look amazing. Like, good for you. I'm going to find you later on. You just warm yourself up. And, then eventually the second bar or the third bar, or, if you're at a wedding, for example, they see the best looking woman there is like, whoa, like this guy is like talking to everyone. Who is this guy? No one does that. And then eventually you end up with the woman that you want. But going back to what you said, I also have found like getting numbers from the kind of women that you were talking about isn't necessarily bad, because it could lead to you both having some consensual fun, but you also could have a friend. Like, I have so many friends that I've met just from random events that I had, no intention of dating romantically, but they introduced me with friends that I did have intentions of dating romantically. And I think a lot of men are stupid because they think, oh, man, she's mid. Why are you talking to her? She's a dark, like, oh, she's unattractive. And I'm like, yeah, but she's a human being. Like, she's still a great person. She's still a great time. And I guarantee you she's got friends that are hotter than her. And number one, you probably couldn't bag anyway. So a lot of these guys that talk shit online, like, oh, you're talking to ugly women, they couldn't talk to any kind of woman, even if they wanted to. Like, I remember, I'll never forget, I was in a situation where we were at a bar. And the same kind of thing, there was a girl walking by and I was like, oh, like, I love your shoes. Like, I'd never seen shoes. They're like sparkly shoes. They're like the fucking Wizard of Oz. They were these blue kind of ruby shoes, right? And I was talking to her and she was telling me she was going to be at this bar later on with her other friends. So I got her number because I was like, I want to see her other friends. And a guy in my friends group was just like, man, like, why are you talking to this duck, man? You're making us look bad. I said, oh, so you're going to make us look good? He was like, yeah, okay. I said, all right, let's see what you got. He was like, nah, I don't want to do it now, man. I'm not drunk enough. I need some more liquor. I was like, yeah, pussy. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and also the fact that they're using an external thing such as your actions that supposedly reflects on them. Like, if they don't get any girls, it's your fault, kind of thing. Like, no, like whatever you're doing has nothing to do with what you're doing. It's like you can't blame someone's behavior outside of you because you're not getting anybody. And that's no, I love where this is going, because I think a lot of men are not aware like that. And that woman that is wearing those tight pants, and she knows what she's doing. Like, she tight pants and she looks great and she's walking, and she knows so all the men are there. And when you're that one that when I see a really hot woman, I don't even look at her. And because I think that's what they want. So I give them the opposite. I look at, like I said, the ugly friend or somebody else, or you don't even exist. Something happens with these women that, so a lot of times they have uh, maybe it's a confidence issue. I don't know, that they need this. That's the reason they work so hard on their bodies. That's the reason that they do these surgeries, all of these things. They need that validation. And when you don't give it to them, they tend to be attracted to that. Like, because it's like, no, I got 99% of men. I want that 1% that don't want me. So be that 1%. Man, so in moving it further, so after you go on a date and you play on your strengths, like you're saying, what how do you feel about dates itself, like the spending money, especially on a first date? Do you enjoy, like, or recommend the setup of, hey, what do you do on Thursday night? Let's go at 8 at such place? Or is there a more informal way to maybe get on a date? eh, Like, soften it up so it's not so harsh. I think a date is so much pressure, where instead of going, I like to better you say, hey, I'm gonna be over here tonight if you wanna come by. So it's like, it's not as you and me are going to have sit down and have this talk. It's more, I'm going to be here chilling. Come by, we'll have a good time. And it's still a date, but not with the pressure of, if it doesn't work out, then we just don't talk again. It's more, we're just having a good time. And if we don't, then no, nothing happens. Which approach or what do you recommend?
You know, I always say, always be as intentional as you can be on a first and second date. Always. Because, women are so finicky, they're so consumed by TikTok and social media that other women are in their ear saying, oh, he's not intentional. He doesn't really like you because he's saying, just come and meet me and hang out. And what I've always done is I've been incredibly intentional and I've led every aspect of the interaction. You plan the first dates, you plan the second date, you do make it formal. You let them know, I'm a man, I have a dick, this is what I want. I want to go on a date with you. I want to get to know you. I want to make it official. My time is not to be wasted. I have other things that I'm dealing with. So here's the time that I have available. Come meet me. Let's get to know each other. Let's have fun. I always think you have to be intentional because from the jump, you have to let them know that you are competent, that you are concise, and that you're not fucking around. After around the third date, that's when things start to relax a bit more because at that point, you know how into you this girl is. At least you should. I feel like the third and fourth date is like, boom, she's on it, she's interested, or she wanted a couple of meals, or she just wanted to have a whimsical date, right? But by the third and fourth, you should know. And that's when you're like, oh, me and my boys are going to be at Gracie's. Like, are you going to be out? I'd love to see you. Bring your girlfriends. That's when you can start doing the informal things like, oh my word, I'm in the farmer's market. Where are you? Come meet me. Because then you know each other. Then she trusts you. But, women have every right to be cautious because a lot of men are dickheads. So at the first date, if you're like, oh yeah, like, come to the bar and let's kick it, she might, like, I don't know. But like, I would only do that if that's all you want. Like, if you just want to kind of hook up with someone and hang out, then sure. But if you're sincere about finding someone special, you got to be intentional about everything to the penny.
Okay. I see the difference. Then I guess there's a date when you're looking for that connection, right? Where you're like
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, I want someone in my life, and I'm kind of shopping around for that person that can be part of my life, as opposed to, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with this girl I met or not. And or I don't know. I don't know if I've maybe it's me that I'm and you're giving me now the your therapy session. Don't send me a bill, but the
Ha!
maybe I'm jaded in the fact that uh, you know I've been heartbroken so many times that
Mm-hmm.
I have no desire for a relationship. Like, not I have desire for connection, companionship, but like I don't see any gain at this point from like stopping half of my life to unite with someone else half of my life. And now like that relationship, I think to me is different than love because that relationship is almost like a business. It's like, where are you? We need this. We need to do this. What are we doing this weekend? We got to go to my friend's birthday. Now your life is shared and
Mm.
it's a business. You gotta compromise and negotiate. Where when it's
Yeah.
love, it's more maybe you don't have the commitment where someone can actually come and scoop her up and marry her. But at the same time, you're more free to enjoy each other without the expectations like, well, where is this going? Are we going to get married? Are we going to live together? What are we? I don't know. Is there a difference there? Do you see relationships and love as two separate things? Or do you think that you need both of them in order for one thing to work?
I think they're the same thing, and I think it will always just come down to the kind of woman that you date, and to be honest, like how much you just keep it a buck from the jump. Like if I when I was in my situation where I was like, I'm not getting no relationship, I would always just tell him before I even got the number. I'd be like, yeah, blah blah. Just for the record, like I'm not looking for anything right now. And it would happen two ways. Oh, okay, then you probably shouldn't get my number. I'd be, hey, you know what? Thank you for being honest. You have a good night. Enjoy your drink. Or I'd be like, I'm not looking for anything serious. Oh, neither am I. Bet. You know what I mean? So I just think I've never lied. I've never ever lied to date a woman. I think that's the corniest pussy ass thing I've ever heard of. Like to be like, oh, I'm looking for a relationship, and then pulling the wool over her eyes. Those men are cowards. They don't even deserve to call themselves players. If they do, I slap the shit out of them. But my point being, quote me on that, is that like, if you're just honest with women from the jump, and if you tell them what you told me and you say, hey, like, this is how I feel, she's going to tell you what she thinks. If she says, hey, you know what, Q, I agree with you. Like, that's kind of how I feel about love and relationship. You know you've got a winner. But if you tell her
Yeah,
that from the jump and she argues with you, then you know I'm not going to waste my time with this person. She's talking shit. So I think what you said, you just articulate who you are and what you want from the jump, and you do it because you're not afraid of losing her. If you're not afraid of losing any woman, you'll always tell her the truth.
absolutely. That's a great point. And I think, being honest, however, it backfires sometimes because you might say, I mean, I'm just not right now. I'm not saying ever, ever, never. I don't know. But right now, it's just a relationship is not in my horizon. I just got out of some really bad stuff and still dealing with that. And sometimes it almost backfires, not in the sense, oh, okay, thank you for being honest, I'm gonna be on my way. It's almost like they try to change your mind. So they try even harder to kind of change your mind. It is, and it's funny how seduction works because in a way, they're being seduced by what I'm telling them I can't give. Right. Where if I was like trying to give it to them, like, I want to be with you, let's be in a relationship, they might not even want that. They might run away. So how does that dynamic work when you are actually doing the opposite or being honest? And it's like a rock star, right? Women say, I want a man that's loyal. But then you see a rock star or Chris Brown or an artist, they have a different woman every night. And you would think women go, ooh, disgusting. I will never. No, they want him more. They
Yeah. Yeah.
desire him more. How does that, because women say one thing, I want a nice man, honest man. But then they love these shitty dudes that came out of jail and they're drunk and beating them. And I'd be like, wait, you said you want a good guy. This good guy, you cheating on him with this, you know, the worst human being possible. How do, from your experience, what your perspective, why? How does this happen?
You know, I think, God, and I hate to say the cliche, it really is a lot of childhood trauma. It's not having a good father figure in their life. It's a lot of what their upbringing is, or lack thereof. And it's a lot of buying into what social media says. And in addition to that, it's not so much that women like a piece of shit bad boy thug. It's that the piece of shit bad boy thug doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He does what he wants to. He says what he wants to. You don't necessarily have to be any of those things, but you just have to be unapologetic. If you're unapologetic, women respect that, because every day of their life, you've got some chimpanzee that's like, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, you're so funny. And he's laughing at her jokes when she ain't fucking funny. And, men do this to women all the time. I remember I was in an elevator with my girlfriend, and, I was on my phone on one side and she was on the other side. Guy comes in, ignores me. So, how's your day going? Starts talking to her, doesn't even know we're together. I didn't say shit. I thought it was so entertaining. But this is how men are to women. So when women meet a guy who, I wouldn't necessarily say treats them like shit, but doesn't give a shit, then she's going to be attracted to him, because not a lot of guys are like that. But to be honest, I am repelled by those kind of women. Like, if I tell a woman I'm not interested, I don't want to get in a relationship, and then after a few weeks she tries to convince me, it repels me, because I'm like, I don't want to ever wife someone up who dates men who don't give a shit about them in the first place. You want to date a woman who is clued up from the jump, who never had a bad boy phase because she knew. Or if she did date bad boys, it's because they lied to her. Those are the kind of women that you want, because those are the kind of women that have good hearts. The women that purposely look for bad boys because they want something different, avoid them like the plague. Nothing good can
Yeah,
come from that.
it's a character trait there. That's a thing of their character already built in. But and I also think, for example, just use an example that someone famous like Future. he has, 7, 8, 9, 10 baby
Pronouns
mamas.
Yeah.
And he's telling you, yeah, I cheat on my bitch. Yeah. Like but people say, oh, look at it. But it's not him. When do we place the blame on the eighth baby mama, right? It's like, you see this dude got 7 babies from different moms, and you're gonna fall in love with him and let him hit raw, and then complain that you're the eighth baby mama. I don't think it's his fault at this point. You know what I mean? At this point, we got to start placing the blame too, because I think we always get the blame as the men that are bad, when it's like, no, women really are the ones that choose. We don't we put ourselves available. They choose, right? We don't force women like in the cave days, like brown by the hair, and you're gonna come with me. We just try to present ourselves, and they say yes or no. So if that's the case, the responsibility needs to start falling 50-50, but maybe more towards the women's side, where if you see this man's behavior and he has, all these kids, and he went out, he's just been in jail for 15 years, and he's about to go back in about 2 more years, and you still choose that, you can't be a victim. I mean, in my opinion, and I don't know if I'm wrong or right, but what do you think about placing us men, start placing some of the guilt on the women? Because I think we just kind of take it. We're like, men this, men that. And we can't even say anything because we're wrong, right? But can we like start saying, no, 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 you're making bad decisions. That has nothing to do with us men. Or how do you feel? Do you feel sympathetic towards them?
To be honest, I don't really feel sympathetic to anyone that makes stupid decisions. I think there's an old saying that says, don't tell anyone your problems, because 80% don't give a shit and 20% are glad it's you and not them. So for me personally, I think you blame men or women who make stupid decisions. Like if, I dated an OnlyFans girl and, she ended up cheating on me with someone I knew. That wasn't me. I saw all the signs. I ignored it because she was an OnlyFans girl, right? And she was hot. My point is that like, if ever a woman says, oh, I don't have any sympathy. I don't know why I should, because when someone shows you who they are, listen to them, right? Like everyone knows in hindsight, when you finish with someone, you break up with them, you knew the flags. Everyone knows the flags, because people are not as naive and as stupid as they claim to be. Because on one half, you've got women that say, I love a bad boy. I love this guy who does this and like that, and like pulls my hair, whatever. And in the other half, you got women who are like, I had no idea. I didn't know it was going to happen. But what are the top selling novels in the romance? Who are they? Bad boys, topless, super ripped. They're not buying no novel in the romance section of a 5'3" skinny nerd who loves his mom and takes care of his grandma. They don't give a shit about that. So, women actively choose to date these men. You get what you get, and we don't give a shit. And it's the same with men. If a man goes on a date with a woman and she says, I like the princess treatment, this is what I need from you. You Venmo me money to take care of my nails. You take me out on a date, and he gets played. Motherfucker, she told you who she was. She said she likes the princess treatment. I don't give a shit what happened to you. You deserve it. So for me personally, I'm like, if you make stupid decisions, you deserve everything you get.
So in the work that you do, let's take a man. I'm this dude, and or he's an OnlyFans. He got a few subscriptions to OnlyFans. Fell in love with a ex stripper, and she, I don't know, like one of those stories where you could tell that this dude is just not aware. Like, she's an ex stripper, no, but she's not like that anymore, and I'm taking care of her now.
Of course, of course, of course. Them
So that
ones.
dude calls you, and he's like, look, man, I'm just struggling. I really love her, but she don't come home sometimes. And she says she's I don't know, doing laundry, whatever. You know that he's getting played. He's getting played. Walk me through, or first of all, can you fix or can you help? Two, if you can, what's your process to get him from where that's a bad place to be, to at least in an awareness space where he can start valuing himself more? Like, can you help? And if so, how?
So this happened to a few friends and a few clients. I'll give you 3 stories. The first thing I do is I walk them through every finite detail of what they're going through. So if a friend says to me, yo, man, like, you know, she's at home, she's outside all night, she comes home at 2 a.m. I say, okay, what do you think she's doing at 2 a.m. in the morning? You think she's at McDonald's? She at Kroger's doing a late night shopping trip? Well, she could be doing this. I be, okay, look at yourself right now. Do you really think that's what she's doing? Does she usually do that? Right? And I just walk them through it bit by bit. There was a friend of mine who will remain nameless who his girlfriend cheated on him, but it was just once. She slept with one guy. And he was like, yeah, like I love her, been together for 4 years. Should I take it back? I said, okay. He slept with her. She slept with him, right? Yeah. So at some point, when you weren't there, she was saying, give it to me harder. At some point, when you were there, she was putting it back in. At some point, when you weren't there, she was actively choosing to do foreplay with this guy. She was jerking him off, knowing that she was still with you. At some point, she made an active decision to betray your trust. At some point, she said, I'm going to do this and then try and get back with my man, because she knows that you're an idiot, that you're a sucker. And if you take it back, you're going to be the exact sucker that she thinks you are, because she has no respect for you. Because if anyone had respect for you, they wouldn't do that. So you walk them through every gross, graphic, finite detail. And if that doesn't work, they deserve every minute of heartache that they get because they weren't willing to listen to the truth. You know, people know the truth. Sometimes they need someone to say it to them.
Well, I was going through the graphic details, and even now, it makes you kind of like, oh, wait, no. But I think there's men that still are willing to overlook that because they don't think they could do better, or whatever it
Yes.
is. So how do you get them? Because it's a value issue. It's a self-respect. She obviously does have respect for him, but he doesn't have respect for him. So do you have any advice on a man that maybe feels this way? That how do you gain that confidence and self-respect? Is there a gym for that?
So one of my favorite movies is Heat, 1996. Val Kilmer, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. One of the best action movies of all time. Robert De Niro says, don't get into a situation where you can't leave immediately. And he's able to do that because of all the places he robbed in the film. He's got millions of dollars where he can just escape at any moment and go to where he wants to go, and has numerous safe houses. Most men don't have any safe house because they have, we all know the term one-itis. And that means they don't have options. And the law of scarcity works just like anything else. If you don't have scarcity, then you're only going to have to deal with one product. And I always say this to people, your product has to have demand. If you yourself, your product doesn't have demand, then you really do have to stick with the girl who cheated on you, because no one wants your product. You ain't got no product. But you have to build that internal product over a numerous amount of months and years where if you dump her, in about 3 weeks, she'll build up your roster again. In a couple of days, you'll meet new women. You could literally go out that weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Thursday, and start from scratch. And then the next week have women to date because you're that good. So you have to put yourself in a situation where you have the conviction to know that you have options, where you have the conviction to know that you are that guy. And when you know that if she dumps me, it doesn't really mean anything because I can find someone else. But if you don't have that, you're only as good as the person you're with, because that's the only person you can have. That's why when I look at people who have been with women for, 20, 30 years, and the woman's like, oh, he's never cheated. I look at the guys, I was like, because he couldn't, even if he wanted to. He's been faithful to you. He's been faithful to you because he could not be faithful. And you can always tell those guys. That's why when certain people jump online and they say, I'm a good man, I'd never cheat my woman, I'm like, man, you couldn't cheat even if you wanted to, baby. Men are as only faithful as their options, and the ones who are faithful are disciplined and they actually honor their woman.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's true, because also if they build that that where they can just go out and build their roster up again and they're that man, she probably wouldn't even cheat, right? Because I think probably her needs are being met in every way. And I think a lot of times the cheating comes from, and obviously every situation is different and who knows what happens in every individual situation. But to generalize, it's a lack of, like something is missing. It's a lack of connection because as a man, even, when you have everything, you don't need to cheat because you're satisfied. Same thing with the woman. Like when she's satisfied and safe, then she don't need to. So something needs to trigger that, like when she's at work and that woman get hit on all. I don't care what anybody says. They could be married or not. At work, someone's hitting on her. That's just what it is. So the only way that she's gonna cheat, because she has opportunity all the time, is if she feels you either deserve it or that guy over here is providing something that you're just not capable of providing. Um, and obviously everything is separate, but do you think that you can prevent cheating? Or do you think that as it's just like a thing of life? I mean, for example, can you as a man be so good that you prevent cheating? Like that you're like such the man, or even that man's man still get cheated on?
I think there's two components. One, you have to constantly date your woman. Like Patrice O'Neill. You ever heard of Patrice O'Neill? Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
used to say, "Mac your woman." Like you've literally got to mac your woman. The same way you picked her up is the same way you got to keep her happy. That means you take her out to dinners every now and then. That means you look into her eyes, you hold her, and you tell her how much you love, honor, and respect her. That means you're not a lazy bastard. You pull your weight every now and then. That means are constantly working on something. You have a purpose. You have a passion. You respect your friends and family. You need to be a man she respects and honors and admires. That's a way that you can mitigate that 100%. The second component is the quality of character and the woman that you marry, the woman that you date. There's just certain women where they wouldn't cheat on their person because that's who they are. And that by the way they speak, the way they carry themselves, the way they've been raised, what their belief system is, their religious background. If you can mix those two things, I'd say there's a 99% chance that she won't cheat. But there will always be that 1% variable. And that's what men and women have to be okay with. Because at any moment, your cherished love of your life could just change their mind. I've changed. Things are different. And that's why a lot of men and women don't want to get married anymore because they're scared. But you have to be willing to take that risk because life is too short. And what you don't want to be is Hugh Hefner, one of the richest men in the world who died, had no one to really be his heir apart from the sons with women that he never married, and had no one at his bedside. And when he did die, all the women who were at his bedside turned around and wrote articles about how he assaulted them. So, you really have to make sure when you do want to get into a serious relationship or get married that you vet the fuck out of that person so she has good character.
Wow. That's amazing advice. Thank you for sharing that with everybody here because I think we don't do the vetting. I think a lot of times we fall into situations. I know myself in all of my relationships pretty much, I've fallen into them. I wasn't trying to be in a relationship. It's just one day we're hanging out and the next day another time and then three times and then, 3 weeks, 6 months. Next, you're just like 10 years. And you're like, what? I didn't plan this. It's almost like and I think a lot of us men are like that. We just kind of fall for the comfort of things instead of going, you know what? I'm comfortable, but not 100% comfortable, which is a big flag. If you're not 100% sure, don't force that percentage that you're not sure into here. It's like, explore that. Be like, okay, why am I not 100% okay with this And then that way you're not end up with someone that has a character flawed and that you knew. Because another thing is, I don't know if that's happened to you in relationships where you look back and you knew this person was no good from the jump, from the get go. You knew it. All of them, all of
Mhm.
the bad relationships, you knew and you ignored it, right? Like we just like, I'm gonna overlook that. Oh, okay, she won't be like that and again. Or it's like, no, that once someone shows you who they are, that's who they are. So tell me a little bit about your coaching. Are you still coaching? Is it open? How do people contact? Like how
Yeah. Good question. So right now I have 6 clients. I do it every quarter. I take on 6 clients, nothing more, nothing less. I try not to go over it just because it's a passion of mine. I am going to be re-enrolling around the end of October for the first quarter of next year, 2026. If anyone is interested, you can either message me on Mavericks Manor on Substack, or you can go to my Instagram and message me there, or you can go on my website, thefirstaidfix.com is rebranded as the Mavericks Manor, and you can shoot me an email there. That's typically how most people do it, because they find me online or they find me on my TikTok. And that's it.
I'll make sure I put all the links here in the description. And also, um, tell us, really quickly, like on the let's go in the future, 10 years, right? Where's Maverick? What is he doing? What's he working on? What's your life like?
So right now I'm working on my paid tiers for Substack. So I'm actually going to be giving away a free book, and then I'm going to be giving away a book that I'm going to list on Amazon, which is, I think I'm going to charge like $20 for it or something like that. But I'm going to give it to people who have been following me for a while, for free. And then I'm also going to be doing another book about relationships, and then I'm going to be doing a book about marriage, and then about fatherhood. I think I kind of want to go through all the echelons of interpersonal relationships and dynamics, because I believe that the cure to, depression or sadness or any bullshit that's happening in the world is always going to be people. More specifically, the people you love, or the person you love, your child, your best friend, your family. And I want to keep writing about those interpersonal books. So that's where I'm probably going to be in 10 years.
Okay, cool. And then as far as your well, since we're there in the 10 years, do we see anything different? Do you reinvent yourself once in a while, or are we gonna see who we're looking at here when let's do a podcast in 10 years from now? Is it the same person? And I
Oh,
don't mean physically.
it'll be completely different, right? Because, I haven't been single for 4 years now, right? Like I gave up the game like 4 years ago. And in the next 4 years, I'm probably going to get bored of talking about this shit. So I'm going to, climb up to relationships and the marriage, because I'll probably have more experience of that at that point. But really, it's always going to be about the human dynamic, about the human soul, about the quest for greatness, the quest for happiness, and for seeking something deeper that people really don't have a good understanding of. Because as technology grows, people do become more ancillary, people do become more parasocial, and people forget really why we're here, and they don't touch grass enough. So I think I'm definitely going to evolve. But for now, I have fun writing about relationships. And the thing that brings me the most joy is when I'm working with someone and I'm like, oh my word, like I did the book, I did the studies, I did what you told me, and it worked. And the dream is that no one needs my services after a while, just because they're happy.
Well, I love that word, parasocial, which is kind of like
Yeah.
parent. Well, how would you describe what's parasocial? Because I love that.
Parasocial is just, fucking weirdos who live through celebrities, man, who are just kind of like, they feel like they know them, and they defend people they don't know, who could be jerking off into a cardboard box for all we know. But to them, they're the second coming of Christ. It's like, you don't even notice Goober. When someone gets cancelled, everyone's like, I can't believe this. I'm like, I can. He's a human being. Like, he makes mistakes. What the fuck did you think he was? You think he didn't do shit like that? People are human. Everyone's an asshole. It's just kind of different variations of assholery.
Great, man. So take us out with, if you have one piece of advice, and obviously you've given us more than that, but one piece of advice that if everything else doesn't count, what's the one piece of advice you can give men, us men, to become better?
I would say no. Constantly remind yourself that you don't know shit about shit. Constantly be learning, reading, soaking up as much information, and always apply. Okay, the comfort zone is never static. It's either shrinking or it's expanding. And the only way it expands is if you're constantly doing things. And you can't do things unless you're learning them. And you don't learn things unless you realize you don't know shit. And it's that whole circle. If you master those three things, your life will be full of reward and joy.
Wow. Wow. Words to live by. So, man, I really, really appreciate you taking the time and giving us all this knowledge, and hopefully it doesn't fall in deaf ears, because a lot of times we hear it, we agree, and then we go back to our old ways. Right after watching this, like go back to, it's kind of making that change, that's important. So thank you so much for being here. And I make sure to link, your Substack. If no one does nothing else with you, they got to follow you on Substack because it's so entertaining. And the way that you write and the way that you say things, it's intellectually smart, but clear. Like, you're not using these big words to try to like do this, what do you call it? A masterpiece of writing. It's more
Right,
XYZ,
right.
XYZ, XYZ. And when you put it together, you're like, that's a formula. Wow. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Keep that up, please. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for being
no,
here. And
thank you, Q. I think this whole thing has been a pleasure to get back on the podcast circuit. I look at your YouTube every now and then, and it kind of reminds me of like the things I used to do. And also I learn something new every now and then just because I like the way different, I don't want to say men's dating coaches, but, the way they speak about things and they put things together in ways that I perhaps haven't thought of before. And it inspires me to write articles and other notes in Substack. So
yeah, and I know
keep
you're on
doing what you
YouTube
do.
as well. Thank you.
Yeah, but I never really drive people to that because those videos are shit and old, if I'm being completely frank.
Then we need you
But
back. We need you back there.
I do have to get back on that, but keep doing what you're doing, man. I hate saying it, but you're one of the good ones. You're one of the good ones. And when you do blow up, I hope you remember me because I'm going to reach out. Yeah, I feel like the Godfather. I'm going to reach out for you for a favor,
Hey, I really appreciate those words, man. That's really a great encouragement. And I'm not a dating coach. I don't charge anybody. I don't even charge for my Substack. I don't do. I'm an explorer of this. To me, this conversation is for me, and hopefully other people can benefit. But my questions come from my heart, like, because I want to pick your brain.
And tell.
And for my son, one day I want him to watch these episodes and go, "Don't go what Daddy went through."
Yes.
Look at
Yeah.
everything that I've learned, get all this knowledge, again in 4 years, like a university degree, so that you can go out in the world and do better things than me. You don't meet me where I'm at, like become the next generation. When you go into fatherhood, I can't wait for you to, because I think your mind in the fatherhood, where you want to pivot to, that's going to be insane. So I can't wait for that. Are you a father?
Thank you. Not yet. Not yet.
You
Soon.
got to practice, man.
One day.
You got to.
Get in, man.
You said your pull-out game is tight. You got that pull-out game. It's like,
Of course, man. Listen, I've been racking it up since college, man. I ain't going back from that. So appreciate you, man. And we'll connect soon, okay?
Sounds good. All right, man. Thanks, man. Peace.
All right, cheers, man. Bye.